Guess who's in my filming spot? It's Fluffy. It's Fluffy. This book was keeping me up at night thinking about what I wanted to say about it, so I need to review it so I can stop thinking about it. This is entirely your fault, Troy. You made me read that. To be fair, I was relatively well warned about most of what would be in it, but not all of what would be in it. And also, to be fair, I think you were currently reading this when I saw it on your channel, because you're doing a readathon. You weren't done with it yet, so you didn't know everything, but still, it's your fault. So this is Unforgivable Love by Sophronia Scott, who is a black lady who has her picture. It's here, where it's on the back. There she is, isn't she beautiful? And she, focus on there. And she wrote a retelling of Les Liaisons Dangereuses, or however you say those French words, in Black Harlem, specifically rich black people, which I was not taught existed in the 1940s in my education, because the American school system / our media is severely lacking when it comes to black history. I think that Troy Towell and that he was reading this with, or the read along that he was reading this with, was related to Black History Month, so it's probably not a coincidence that I read this during Black History Month. The main character, because there's 4 main characters in this book, 4 perspectives that you get the story told from. This person, I think, is named May Malveaux, and she is the daughter of someone who is based on a real person, being C.J. Walker. Sarah Breedlove was her real name. She branded herself C.J. Walker as a sales thing. She was born in 1867. I think her parents had been born slaves, but she was born free, and she noticed that there weren't enough good hair products to use on black people's hair, so she invented a whole line of black hair care products, and was one of the first, or the first, depending on who you ask, female self-made millionaires. So she was a very impressive woman, and she obviously had a lot going against her, being both black and a woman, so she overcame a lot to be able to do that in that time. Sorry if I seem a bit I'm sick. My voice probably sounds like I'm sick. Fluffy's come back, by the way. She's right here. See, I'm going off. C.J. Walker, impressive woman. And one of the things that makes me glad I read this book is that it inspired me to go look up her life. And what I wanted was a biography of her. I much prefer reading biographies, like fully written out biographies, to reading little snippets or like articles online, which is what I ended up having to do because I couldn't find a biography about her at my library. There are a few biographies written about her. As you would expect, she's kind of a big deal, but my library doesn't have any of them. So I settled with learning all these facts about her. So the reason that's related is that one of the main characters of this book, and basically the driving force behind the plot of this book, is a youngish, I guess she's in her 30s, black woman who is the daughter of a self-made, very rich black woman who specialized in hair products. So obviously meant to be a reference to C.J. Walker. So the way in which this is a retelling, it seems like it's a fairly close retelling as far as the plot goes. There's 4 main characters, and 2 of them are out to victimize the other 2, basically. Their motivations are pretty weird, but that's kind of to be expected because it was a retelling that's a bit of a stretch, taking something that was normal for people to be motivated by in the 1700s in aristocratic France, and having it be the motivations behind the actions of characters in 1940s Harlem. But if you suspend your disbelief, which is something that you have to do with fiction a lot, for example, especially if you're a fantasy reader or a sci-fi reader, which I am, very normal to suspend my disbelief to just let myself get taken into a story. Once you get past that, it's fairly believable. I won't sum up the plot because it's a retelling, so it'd be easier for you to just go look up Les Liaisons Dangereuses and find out what happens. Except in the original, there was, or at least in another retelling of the original, but probably also the original, there was a rape which got romanticized. It doesn't happen in this book. Or at least I'm pretty sure it doesn't happen. I skipped the last half. I skimmed it. Which is the point in which that would have happened, but I really don't think it happened because somebody on Goodreads would have said so, because that's kind of a big deal. So other than that, pretty close along those lines of the original story. The parts that I really liked is basically, and kind of the reason that I was reading the book, was that I like to diversify my reading and learn about the experiences of people who are very different from me through fiction. I learn most of my historical facts through historical fiction, whether they be TV shows or books. So most of what I know about 1910s and 20s in the UK, in the aristocracy, comes from Downton Abbey and other such shows and things. And most of what I know about 1810s in the same place and with the same people is from Jane Austen. And also Temeraire, which, again, the same reason that I wanted a biography of C.J. Walker instead of just an article about her is that being fiction, historical fiction, or very in-depth biographies or very in-depth histories, I find much more able to teach me. I feel I retain much better if I hear about a particular character who actually used these old-time tools or who actually felt these societal pressures in this time. If I have a character to hook that onto, it helps me remember a lot better. So I try to read quite a lot of varied historical fiction to learn about that stuff, because I have learned some of it in my history classes, but one, history classes have a lot of bias, and two, they skim the surface so much that I don't care and I don't remember anything. So when Troy was talking about this book, I really and was talking about where it was set and who the characters were, I wanted to pick it up so that I could learn about these people's lives and what these people's lives were like in this time. And while the motivations are weird, the descriptions of their daily lives, from what I've gotten from the research that the author has done and just the way it's written, seems like it's very informed and accurate to what times would have been like for those people. My favorites were by far whenever we were in the perspective of Cecily. She is the youngest, and she's very much someone who was learning about the world. She was 17 when it started, I believe. So she's very much learning about the world and taking us along for the ride of learning about her body and society and country life, because she has the perspective of, she was raised in Harlem and has gotten sent off to live in the country for a year or so. And she compares and contrasts those two, and that was very interesting. And I do also really like the upper class club scene thing that goes on with the two main characters, May and Val. So learning about how they acted with each other and how the upper classes interacted. Very interesting. I really like that. Where it falls down for me is basically the retelling bit. The entire plot line. I hate. I hate it so much. Then I was just looking on Goodreads because I wanted to see kind of what other people... And it seemed that most of the people who actually enjoyed the book liked how sexy it was. If you've been watching my channel, you know I'm asexual. I don't get into that very much. I don't mind it so much when there's a lot of romance going on, but this is a book that has quite a lot about sex and very much no romance. Because all of the characters who supposedly love each other are cheating on each other. So, not really romantic. The way that the feelings, the sexual feelings are described, which are kind of going on a lot of the time that isn't like an actual sex scene, is very visceral and very descriptive and very poetic, so I can see how people who like sex would like that. It kind of gave me the perspective of, gee, I'm glad I don't have those feelings, because that's nasty. There was a lot about being in tune with your body and its rhythms, and yeah, a lot about being in tune with your body, particularly from the perspective of Cecily, who is young and just figuring this stuff out about herself, which for a lot of body positive and sex positive people, I think they would really like that, and it's good in that way. Just for me personally, as someone who is asexual and who also has experienced only pain and inconvenience from bodily functions, such as, I'm going to talk about some things now, such as my period. I get really bad cramps every time, and quite frankly, because I am sex repulsed, I would very much like to have my uterus taken out, because it's not going to do me any good. I'm not going to ever have biological children, because nobody's ever sticking anything up there, ever, except that's how they take it out. Oh gosh. But if I didn't have it anymore, I wouldn't have periods, and then I would be in excruciating pain about 3 days a month. So for me, I'm very much not in tune with / happy with my body's rhythms, so I don't really get anything out of the romanticizing of that. A lot of people do, because they want to have that, because they want to have biological children, and they want to feel good about their bodies, but I just can't, because of who I am. So probably good for a lot of women, just not for me personally. And a lot of people who were in the Goodreads reviews were saying how accurate the description of the sexual feelings seem to be. And so I do appreciate that, because I kind of like to see the other side, people who are different from me, much like black people or people in the 1940s. It's good to better understand how sexual people feel and how they think, because the vast majority of people are that way, so it helps to understand them. Long story short, really liked the black rep, really liked the women rep, really liked literally everything about this but the plot. But the author really liked the Dangerous Liaisons original, so she really wanted to write her story being a retelling of that, so good for you, you enjoy doing you. I really liked all the other aspects. Oh, one thing I did want to mention is the main male character. 3 out of 4 of the main characters are women. The main male character does some things that are kind of disturbing, in that he is a master manipulator, and one method that men use a lot against women is called gaslighting, and that's where you basically, it's a bit like brainwashing, but you just more casually tell someone that what they experienced wasn't real, or they think something was one way but it was actually another. And so the main male character, Val, does this quite a bit to another of the main characters, Elizabeth. Gaslighting is just, for me, a very sensitive subject, because I know it's real. And so seeing it played out and seeing it work on this woman was very disturbing for me. Very realistic and very much in line with his character, and not at all a bad thing writing-wise or quality-wise, just very upsetting for me as a woman. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Bye!